I never thought I'd be the one to say this on camera, but 3I Atlas just broke apart, and one of the fragments is speaking. Before we begin, I need you to do something for me. Comment your city name below and tell me, have you noticed anything unusual in the night sky recently? Lights that move differently? Patterns that shouldn't be there? NASA is quietly monitoring reports from civilians across the globe, and what I'm about to share may change the way you see humanity's place in the universe. My name is Dr. Michio Kaku. I've spent my entire career studying the fabric of space-time, the birth of stars, the mathematics of higher dimensions. I've theorized about parallel universes, wormholes, and the technological signatures of advanced civilizations. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what happened 3 weeks ago when fragment B7 of Comet 3I Atlas detached from the main body and began transmitting a signal that defies every known principle of astrophysics. Let me take you back to the beginning. 3I Atlas was discovered by the Atlas Survey in Hawaii. At first, it appeared to be nothing more than another interstellar visitor, a rogue comet passing through our solar system from the depths of interstellar space. We'd seen this before: Oumuamua, Borisov. These objects fascinated us because they were messengers from other star systems, carrying chemical fingerprints of alien solar neighborhoods, frozen relics of planetary formation happening light years away. But 3I Atlas was different from the start. Its trajectory was unusual. Not impossible, but statistically improbable. It was moving too precisely, as if correcting its course. When the first spectrographic analysis came back from the Keck Observatory, the data showed an albedo, a reflectiveness, that oscillated in a pattern. Not random, not chaotic, rhythmic. The kind of rhythm you'd expect from something manufactured. I was consulted by a team at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in early January. They wanted my opinion on whether the object could be exhibiting non-gravitational acceleration, the kind Avi Loeb attributed to Oumuamua, suggesting it might be a light sail from an extraterrestrial civilization. I told them what I believe then, that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, that we needed more data, that jumping to conclusions about alien technology would be irresponsible. I was wrong to be so cautious. At exactly 03:14 Universal Time, something happened that shattered every assumption we had. The James Webb Space Telescope, which had been tracking 3I Atlas as part of a routine deep field observation study, captured an event that was never supposed to occur. A fragment, roughly 47 meters in diameter, detached from the main nucleus of the comet. Not in the way ice sublimates from solar heating, not from tidal forces or rotational stress. It separated cleanly, deliberately, as if released. And then 16 seconds later, it began transmitting. The signal was first detected by the Very Large Array in New Mexico, a narrowband radio emission at 142 gigahertz, the hydrogen line, the universal frequency that any intelligent civilization would monitor if they were searching for others. The transmission lasted exactly 11 minutes and 34 seconds. Then it stopped. Then it repeated, again and again, a loop, an announcement, a message. I was brought into a classified briefing at the Goddard Space Flight Center 3 days later. The room was filled with people I recognized: radio astronomers, cryptologists, exobiologists, military intelligence analysts. Everyone looked exhausted, afraid. The director of the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute stood at the front of the room and said something I will never forget. We are no longer speculating whether we are alone. We now know. And the answer is far more complicated than we ever imagined. They played the signal for us. It wasn't a series of beeps or prime numbers or mathematical sequences like we'd theorized for decades. It was structured data, layered, multidimensional, the kind of information density that would require quantum computational architecture to encode. Our initial analysis suggested the signal contained more than 1.7 petabytes of information, compressed into less than 12 minutes of transmission time. We couldn't decode it, not yet, but we didn't need to. Because embedded within the signal was something we could understand, a visual sequence. When mapped using fast Fourier transform algorithms and reconstructed into two-dimensional arrays, the data formed images, hundreds of them. And what those images showed was a record, a history. They showed Earth, not as it is now, as it was, 3.8 billion years ago. The images depicted our planet during the Archean eon, when the first microbial life was emerging in the primordial oceans. But they also showed something else: structures, geometric patterns in the upper atmosphere, reflective surfaces orbiting at altitudes consistent with low Earth orbit. They were watching us, even then, recording our biosphere as it took its first fragile breath. I sat in that room staring at those reconstructed images on the screen and felt something I had never felt before in my scientific career. Not wonder, not excitement, terror, because if they had been watching us for nearly 4 billion years, then every moment of human history, every war, every discovery, every act of creation and destruction had been observed, cataloged, judged. But the fragment wasn't finished. The signal contained a second sequence. This one showed stellar maps, coordinate systems we initially couldn't recognize until one of the astronomers cross-referenced them with deep space observation data from the Gaia mission. The maps depicted trajectories, paths, thousands of them, objects moving through the galaxy in controlled flight patterns, and at the center of the map was a region of space approximately 640 light-years from Earth, near the star system Gliese 581. That's when the hypothesis emerged, the one that no one wanted to say out loud, but everyone was thinking. What if 3I Atlas wasn't just a probe? What if it was a boundary marker? One of the exobiologists in the room, Dr. Eliza Marin from MIT, stood up and voiced what would later become known as the quarantine hypothesis. She proposed that humanity had been deliberately isolated, that Earth had been placed inside a region of space avoided by spacefaring civilizations, not out of neglect, but out of protocol, that we were being observed, studied, and kept separate from the broader galactic community until we reached some threshold, some evolutionary milestone, some level of consciousness or technological maturity that we had not yet achieved. And now the fragment was transmitting, after 3.8 billion years of silence. Why now? That question haunted me. It still does, because the timing is not random. In the last century, humanity has split the atom, decoded our own genome, built artificial intelligence that rivals human cognition, and begun transmitting our presence into the cosmos through radio waves and deep space probes. We've reached a level of technological capability that is both magnificent and terrifying. We have the power to cure disease and to engineer pandemics, to explore the stars, and to annihilate ourselves. Is that why the signal was sent? Is that why Fragment B7 detached and began broadcasting into the void? Were we being evaluated, warned, or worse, were we being prepared for contact we are not ready for? I want you to understand something. The scientific community is deeply divided right now. There are those who believe the signal is an invitation, that it's the long-awaited proof that we are not alone, that we are being welcomed into a larger cosmic family, that the images of ancient Earth are proof of a benevolent stewardship, a kind of interstellar mentorship that has allowed us to evolve without interference. But there are others, and I must confess, I am increasingly among them, who believe the signal is something else entirely. A notification, a status update sent to whoever is listening out there in the galaxy, that humanity has crossed a line, that we have triggered some clause in an agreement we never knew existed, that the quarantine is ending, and what comes next may not be what we hoped for. Let me explain why I think this. The signal from Fragment B7 is not directed at Earth. We are not the intended recipients. The transmission is beamed outward toward that region near Gliese 581. We are intercepting it, the way you might overhear a conversation not meant for you. And the structure of the data, the compression, the layering, the quantum encoding, suggests it was designed to be received by something far more advanced than us, something that thinks faster, processes deeper, exists on time scales we can barely comprehend. There's also the matter of the fragment's behavior after the transmission began. It's accelerating, not falling toward the sun like a normal comet fragment. It's accelerating outward, away from the solar system at a rate that cannot be explained by outgassing or solar radiation pressure. The mathematics are clear. This object is under propulsion, controlled, intelligent, and it's leaving. Which means 3I Atlas was never a comet. It was a device, a probe, a sentinel. And now that its mission is complete, now that it has delivered its message, it's going home. But here's what keeps me awake at night. If 3I Atlas was monitoring us, how many others are there? How many objects in our solar system are not what they appear to be? How many asteroids? How many distant Kuiper Belt objects? How many so-called natural phenomena are actually components of a surveillance network that has been watching us since before we were even human? And more importantly, what happens now that the message has been sent? I've tried to answer that question using the only tools I have, mathematics and physics. I've modeled the propagation time of the signal. If it's traveling at the speed of light toward Gliese 581, it will take 640 years to arrive. But if the recipients have mastered faster than light communication, something that our current understanding of physics says is impossible, but that a sufficiently advanced civilization might achieve through quantum entanglement or wormhole networks, then they already know. They already know we're here. They already know what we've become, and they're deciding what to do about it. I've spent the last 2 weeks consulting with colleagues around the world, physicists, philosophers, ethicists. We've been asking the questions that humanity should have been asking for decades, but didn't because we assumed we had time. What are the ethical responsibilities of a species making first contact? How do we communicate with an intelligence that might perceive reality in ways completely alien to us? What if their values, their priorities, their very definition of life and consciousness are incompatible with ours? There's a concept in astrobiology called the Great Filter. It's the idea that somewhere between the emergence of life and the development of a spacefaring civilization, there exists a barrier, a filter, that most species fail to pass through. Some think the filter is behind us, that the jump from single-celled to multicellular life is so improbable that we've already beaten the odds. But others believe the filter is ahead. That technological civilizations inevitably destroy themselves through war, environmental collapse, or runaway artificial intelligence before they can join the galactic community. What if the signal from 3I Atlas is proof that the filter is real, and that we're approaching it right now? What if the quarantine wasn't to protect us? What if it was to protect them? I know how that sounds. I know it seems paranoid, apocalyptic, but look at where we are as a species. We've built weapons that can end civilization in hours. We've altered the chemistry of our own atmosphere. We've created artificial minds that will soon surpass our own cognitive abilities. And we've done all of this in less than a century. From the Wright brothers to the moon landing in 66 years. From the first digital computer to artificial general intelligence in 80 years. We are accelerating, changing, evolving at a pace that is unprecedented in the biological history of this planet. And if someone out there has been watching, they've seen it too. They've seen us go from hunter-gatherers to nuclear powers in the blink of a cosmic eye. And maybe, just maybe, they've seen this before in other star systems with other species, and they know how it ends. That's why the signal feels like a warning to me, not to us, but about us. I was contacted last week by a former colleague at SETI who told me something off the record. He said that there have been other signals, not from Fragment B7, from elsewhere, low-frequency emissions detected by the South African Meerkat telescope. Anomalous data spikes in the cosmic microwave background radiation that don't match any known astrophysical source. Patterns in gamma-ray bursts that are too regular to be natural. And all of them started appearing after 3I Atlas entered the inner solar system. It's as if our corner of the galaxy is waking up, as if something dormant has been activated. And we, humanity, in all our fragile brilliance, are at the center of it. I've been asked by several media outlets whether I think we should be afraid, whether this discovery means the end of the world, and my answer is always the same. I don't know, but I do know that we are living through a moment of transition, a threshold, and what we do next, how we respond to this revelation, how we choose to move forward as a species, will determine whether we pass through the great filter or become another forgotten chapter in the galaxy's long history of intelligent life that almost made it. There's a part of me that still holds on to hope, that believes the signal is not a judgment, but an acknowledgement, that after 3.8 billion years, whoever has been watching has decided we're ready. That the quarantine is lifting not because we're dangerous, but because we've finally matured. That the images of ancient Earth were sent as a gift, proof that we are not an accident, that our existence has meaning, that we are part of a story much larger than ourselves. But there's another part of me, the part that understands entropy, chaos, and the cold indifference of the universe, that wonders if we're reading this wrong. If the signal is not a welcome but a final assessment, if the watchers have concluded that humanity's experiment has run its course. I think about the fragment accelerating away from us, transmitting its message into the void, and I wonder what it's saying. Is it sending our report card, our obituary, or something else entirely? Something so far beyond our comprehension that we're interpreting shadows on the wall of Plato's cave, mistaking them for truth. We've begun trying to send a response. Several independent groups have pointed radio telescopes toward Fragment B7 and transmitted messages in return. Mathematical proofs, cultural artifacts, messages of peace and curiosity, but the fragment doesn't acknowledge them. It just keeps broadcasting its loop, over and over, as if we're not even there. Not even. And maybe that's the most unsettling part of all. Maybe we've been looking at this wrong from the beginning. Maybe the signal wasn't meant for a distant civilization in Gliese 581. Maybe it's a beacon, a summoning, and whoever it's calling is already on their way. There are nights now when I stand outside and look up at the sky and I see it differently. Every point of light could be a star with worlds orbiting it, worlds with life, civilizations that rose and fell while our planet was still molten rock. And somewhere among those lights, someone is receiving the message, reading the data, looking at the images of Earth, and deciding, I've spent my entire life trying to understand the universe, to decode its mysteries, to find humanity's place within the vast cosmic structure. I've always believed that knowledge is power, that understanding brings comfort, that the truth, no matter how strange, is always better than ignorance. But now I'm not so sure. Because some truths change everything. Some discoveries can't be undiscovered. And once you know that you've been watched for billions of years, that your entire history has been recorded by eyes that are not human, that a message about your species has been sent into the galaxy and you have no idea what it says or who will receive it, you can't go back to seeing the universe the way you did before. We are being evaluated. That much is clear. The question is, will we pass? I want to believe we will. I want to believe that humanity, despite all its flaws and failures, is worth preserving. That our capacity for love and art and curiosity outweighs our capacity for destruction. That whoever is out there watching and waiting will see what I see when I look at our species. Not a perfect civilization, but one that's trying, learning, growing. But belief is not enough. Hope is not a strategy. If we're truly on the edge of contact, if the quarantine is ending and we're about to meet our cosmic neighbors, then we need to be ready. Not with weapons or walls, but with wisdom, with humility, with the understanding that we are newcomers to a universe that is far older and far stranger than we ever imagined. The fragment is still transmitting. Right now, as I speak these words, it's moving through space at thousands of kilometers per hour, broadcasting its signal into the darkness. And somewhere, someone is listening. I don't know what comes next. I don't know if we'll receive an answer in our lifetimes or if the response will take centuries to arrive. I don't know if first contact will be peaceful or catastrophic, enlightening or devastating. But I do know this: the universe just told us we matter, that our existence has been noted, that we are no longer alone in the cosmic wilderness. And that changes everything. Follow this channel as we continue decoding the universe's final warnings, because what we've discovered is only the beginning. Now I need to hear from you. Knowing what you know now, that we've been watched, that a message about humanity has been sent to an unknown recipient, that the quarantine may be ending. Do you think we're ready? Do you think we've earned our place among the stars? Or are we still too primitive, too violent, too self-destructive to join whatever civilization is waiting out there? Comment your thoughts below. The world is watching, and so I suspect is something else.